Hello, everyone, and welcome to the President's Town Hall. My name is Paul Osborne. I'm the Associate Vice President of Marketing, Community Relations, and Special Projects, and I'll be your moderator today. We are coming to you from the room I still call the Blue Room, but it's now the newly renovated Blue Room, and I must say it feels pretty nice being back on campus, although I miss the energy of the bustling hallways filled with students and staff. In just a moment, President Tibbits will deliver a State of the Union type of address, and after that, we'll move into the question and answer part of the program. We've had tremendous response. Over 650 people, both inside and outside the college, have registered to attend this event, and we've had over 70 questions posed, so we will do our best to get through as many as possible. You can also submit a question in the chat once we get to the Q&A portion of this town hall. And if we don't get to all the questions today, we will take time to ensure they are answered at some point after this event. So at this time, I'm pleased to introduce the President of Conestoga, Dr. John Tibbits.
Thank you, Paul. I want to welcome everyone here today. I'm not going to be reading a speech to you. I'm going to try to give you an overview of what we actually went through in the last 10 months. I want to start with the idea that we were faced from the beginning with a great deal of uncertainty, and I have to tell you we're still faced with a certain amount of uncertainty. It's been unusual times, and I think we'll be in these unusual times for perhaps another 12 months or so. But let's go back to March, and we were all we knew this thing was somewhere in the world. It was in China, and it might get here, but all of a sudden it was here, and thankfully government said to us, we all shut down. So everyone had to shut down, and we had a week, and I want to thank everyone. Within about 8 to 10 days, we went from face-to-face delivery across the board to remote learning in about 8 days. And so I know that put a lot of stress on students, it put a lot of stress on faculty and academic leaders, but I want to say that I think we did a pretty good job under the circumstances. I think one of the things we have done well in this scenario, I mean, when you look at what's happened in other countries, especially the ones south of us, and you look at what we did here is that we really tried to do our best to figure out what the science was behind this virus. And in the beginning, there was a lot of uncertainty about it. I mean, people weren't talking about masks, but we figured out what we had to do, and we figured out also that it wasn't appropriate just to be hopeful. We had to be hopefully realistic. And there's an interesting book on that I've talked to people about. It's called The Stockdale Paradox. It's about a fighter pilot who was shot down over Vietnam. He had a master's degree in philosophy, and he talked about who survived and he didn't. And the ones that survive are the ones that know what they're dealing with. And we knew we were dealing with a serious problem, a problem that could go on for a long time. We didn't imagine it'd be over in a short period of time, and we knew it was dangerous. So one of the first things that we did is we said, okay, we are committed, absolutely committed to ensuring that our employees, our students, and the community is safe. But we also came up with a bit of an analogy here, a metaphor, I guess, and you'd say, we were like a ship. I mean, we had had a great year the year before. We had a good surplus. We had grown significantly the year before, significantly, 16% growth. And all of a sudden, it was equivalent to, we got hit with 2 torpedoes in the front, 2 in the back. And my job, quite frankly, was to make sure that ship could make it ashore. And we worked hard to do that. And we had to make some very difficult decisions. So certainly to protect people, we had to ensure that we had to make sure that we weren't having people on, and when people were on the campus, that they were safe. So we invested to a great extent, way in advance, we invested in PPE. The protective equipment. We ordered 1 million masks, and the highest level you could get other than N95s. We weren't allowed to order N95s. I know some people ask me, why didn't we? We weren't allowed because they were designated for the healthcare professionals, but we had the next level. And we had proper social distancing, and we had screening, and you can see that today. I have to go through screening, on the phone, etc., and infection control measures, etc., etc. And I want you to know that that after all this summer, I mean, we had a lot of students stranded in in the winter semester in March. We had about 2,300 that were stranded. What were we going to do? We brought them back in July, and because we had had these very significant PPE investments and procedures in place, I want you to know that all told we have 2,300 stranded who didn't finish the winter, and another 1,000, not one case of transmission on the campus. And in this fall, we've had approximately 4,000. And these are people, by the way, that need to be here for shops, studios, and labs, and we haven't any cases of transmission at this point. That's something we should be really proud of. I mean, it's a huge, huge accomplishment to be able to do that, and because let's face it, for these students, there's a lot at stake. And obviously, we have about 80% of the students still studying online. But let's go back. I want to go back now, because that's the positive. I'm very positive about how we got through the summer and almost through this fall semester. But let's go back to April, month of April. There was huge uncertainty and huge risk for us, huge risk. We were, with everyone being at home, we took a tremendous hit, huge loss of ancillary fees, and that's in bookstore, parking, food services, rec center fees, you name it. They just, we gave rebates for the rest of the winter semester, but then we didn't charge again, obviously. So we had that, and we also had a drop in domestic enrollment. I mean, a lot of students thought, well, this is going to be over soon. Why would I enroll for the summer? Why would I enroll for the fall? So we had drops in domestic enrollment and obviously tuition. But by far the biggest hit by far was the closing of international borders, the impossibility of bringing students into the country from around the world. And and I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think I've heard from some people and say, well, why do we have so many international students? I want you to know that this is a Canadian issue. There are 650,000 international students studying in Canada every year. It's a $21 billion business. It's a business that we are the third largest in the world in Canada. And it's very, very important, because we have a declining birth rates, and we have huge skill shortages, and without immigration, we cannot move ahead. I'm just losing my voice here. Sorry. So what we're trying to do here in Canada, we're trying to integrate immigration strategy with post-secondary education. I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's huge areas of the economy we are having trouble having domestic native-born Canadians take positions, whether it's trades, food processing, etc. What we're able to do by bringing in international students is fill jobs, for one, in the IT industries and engineering, etc., but also areas where Canadians are not necessarily, like we haven't got enough students going into the trades. So it's a very important part of the Canadian economy to have the international. And the reason why we were able to do some advocacy, and what I mean by that, the Canadian colleges, Canadian universities approached the federal government and said, look, this is a huge issue. This industry, this $21 billion industry, is bigger than the automotive. I think it's as big as the food processing industry. We've got to do something. So at the very last minute around the end of April, beginning of May, and then again in August, they allowed international students to study online in their home country. Without that, we would have had a serious problem, a very, very serious problem, and drop in revenues. But we also had to take action, and I know this is difficult perhaps for some people to hear, but we had to cut all travel, we cut a lot of PD, we had to downsize. We had people where there wasn't work that they could do. We had so many buildings closed, we had the rec center closed, we had buildings down in Brantford closed, etc. So we had to take some drastic measures, and we downsized, and especially contract part-time staff across, not only in support staff, but in faculty, but also in management staff. So there was some downsizing that took place. And between that and also the increase in revenues that came in from the changes in the international, we are in a position now, and I think that's a very important point to make, because Yes, we wanted to protect our health of our students and the community. We wanted to protect the college, but we also have to be ready for the future. And that future is upon us, because at some point this will be over. This pandemic will be over. I don't think it will be over for this winter semester. It's not going to be over for the summer. Some of us believe that this will continue until perhaps it could continue until the spring of 22. It's possible, because we have people that won't, well, about 30% of Canadians don't want to take the vaccine. We have, it'll take a while to distribute the vaccine, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to be in this situation a little bit longer. But I want to talk and pivot a little bit. So I want to say that I want to, first of all, thank everyone, because it's been painful for a lot of people. I mean, there are people that are not working here now that were. There are people that are studying remotely. There are people that are working remotely. And it's not the same sense of what the college was. But like many things, it will pass. And we have to be ready, because what's the other thing on the horizon is the possibility that the federal government and the provincial government are racking up massive debts. Huge deficits, huge debts. So we have to be prepared. We have to be strong and be ready. We also know that this pandemic will change the world forever. We know there's going to be more automation. We know there's AI and augmented reality are going to grow. And as a result, a lot of the, let's say, lower skilled jobs will disappear. We have to be ready to help society, help people train for those jobs. So if we are weak and we weren't ready for that, we couldn't make a contribution. As you know, Conestoga is a very, very important part of helping everyone in the community be the best they can be. We owe it to our community to be strong to be able to do that. And we are now ready, and we're going to be moving ahead now. The Reuter building that we bought in 2019, the 41-acre property, 250,000 square foot building, which is going to be the trades campus, I believe, in North America. We are going to move ahead. We got permission at the board on December the 7th, and we're going to go ahead with a $50 million expansion. We're going to add about 50,000 square feet. So we're going to be going ahead with that. It'll be open in 2022. I'm also very pleased to let you know that we now have land. The city of Milton has given us 45 acres of land for the partnership with Laurier. We'll also be in a partnership with Schlegel Villages, long-term care. We are buying some land there, also 12 acres, so we'll have 57 acres of land. We will be moving ahead with that in the new year. There's going to be an announcement, I believe, probably around February or so, that the Conestoga Laurier partnership will go ahead. Now, we should be proud of that, because in Markham, York went ahead on their own. Seneca backed out. They didn't want to be part of it, and we don't even know now what's going to happen in Brampton. But we have the only real partnership. I want to say also that in Brantford, we are fully committed to Brantford. We've had meetings in the last week or two with the mayor and also the CAO. We really appreciate how welcoming they are. They are talking to us about buildings that we could purchase there. And I am confident that within the next 12 months that we will have 2 or 3 more buildings in Brantford, because I want to make it clear, the international enrollment's going to come back, the domestic's going to come back. We are going to be more and more involved in training in the future, not less involved. It would be more and more important. So I want to let Brantford know that we are moving ahead, and you know our vision. Our vision is to have 7 or 8 major campuses across Ontario. In Milton, we're looking at, within 10 years, 7,000 full-time students. In Brantford, we would hope, depending on the footprint we have, we should be able to, within 10 years, have 5,000 to 7,000. And you look at what we've done in the Waterloo campus, once all the trades programs move out of Waterloo and Guelph and Doon here and Cambridge, we will expand within those campuses. So, and those aren't, it's not just about buildings. You will see us grow dramatically. I think the world is going to change. We were always mainly in a face-to-face world. I think what the general public's going to want, what many students will want, they'll want options. I think we'll be bigger in face-to-face, but I think we'll be also much bigger in remote than we ever were. And there'll be a blend. Some students will want to do some remote, and they'll want to do some face-to-face. But it won't be a zero-sum game. It'll be a game of growth. So we will have to continue to invest in our remote learning. We'll have to obviously and really invest more and more in our IT infrastructure. And I'm saying to our new chap, Darren Lee, we talked this morning, we are going to have to become more and more sophisticated, because this world of Zoom and this world of transactions over the internet is not going to decrease, it's going to increase. But I'm not suggesting that we're going to become a Zoom college. We're going to be also getting back to face-to-face in a major way. There's some major opportunities for us in the PSW. We are very proud of our leadership in that area. We know that we've had a big investment from the Cowan Foundation and established the Francis Cowan Senior Center of Excellence. And we are ramping up our growth in the PSW area, because let's face it, that's a huge issue. 80% of the deaths, by the way, in Canada, and this is something we shouldn't be proud of, it should be ashamed of, actually, 80% of the deaths in Canada due to COVID took place in long-term care facilities. And this college is making a big commitment to be, under Dr. Boskar's leadership and her team, but to be the college in Canada as far as enhancing care, seniors' care. So we have numerous objectives. I said Reuter, Milton, Brantford. There'll be growth here on this campus, especially when the other programs move out. I'm hoping that we might see 3-year degrees in the future. But I just want you to know that I'm confident. I mean, I have to say, if you had asked me in April, it was nerve-wracking. I have to say, I mean, there wasn't a playbook that you could go to and say, okay, this happened, and this is what we're going to do now. There was a lot of people that made a lot of mistakes around the world, a lot of mistakes made. I'm not saying we didn't make any, but I'm very proud of the fact of how our organization responded to this major, major calamity, the biggest calamity that we've ever faced in our 53-year or so history, and one of the biggest in the 100 years of Canada. So I think if you ask me the one thing I think we did that enabled us to be very successful is we established a pandemic committee, and Dr. Bhaskar and Dr. Kurt Monk, we allowed them and others in health area to provide the leadership. This was not a question of who was the most senior person in the organization. It was where was the knowledge? Where was the knowledge that could keep us safe, could ensure that we could get through this in a very effective way and be ready to handle the future? And so I think if someone asked me what's the one thing that you did, Mr. President, that you think was the most important thing, I say establishing that pandemic committee. And we will keep them in place, because I want to make it clear, yes, things are going well now, but there's still a lot of things that we have to be aware of for the future. We're not through this yet, but I think we've learned how we can, and I think if everyone pays attention, I know people at times get upset about the mask, but I tell you right now, the mask is the most important thing. And people that talk about their rights, let's be honest here. If anyone has read John Locke, and he talks about the covenant of people getting together, when people get together, it's for protection. And the first thing that you have to have are obligations. And we have an obligation to one another in this college for everyone to wear a mask. It's not about whose rights it is. In fact, it reminds me of the smoking issue when I first came here. We were the first college, I think, in Canada to put in non-smoking policy. We had people talk about, was there a right to smoke? No. You don't have a right to do harm. Your first obligation is to do no harm, and that's what we're going to try to continue to do here. We want to work together, everyone cooperating together, and we probably got another year or so to make sure we get through this, and we're going to require the cooperation of everyone, and we're going to have to be steadfast for the next few months to get through this successfully. So once again, I want to thank everyone. I think we've come through this well. I think we've got a great future. I'm really positive about the future. And this is only a drop in the bucket when I talk to you about Milton and Reuter and Brantford. We have a list of about 10 or 15 major projects to continue to move this college ahead. So once again, thank you, and best of wishes on the holiday. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Okay.
Despite the pandemic, we're seeing that there are many things to look forward to, as you just highlighted, and that growth will be positive both internally and externally in the community.
Right.
And as mentioned off the top of our broadcast, we've had over 70 questions submitted, so let's get started with the
So
first
we're
question.
here till about 10 tonight then? Or?
Yeah. So the COVID cases continue to rise in our community. There are indications that our region could go into gray very soon, which is the lockdown zone in the near future. How will that change the nature of our current operations, and is Conestoga prepared in the event that we have to face that change in status?
Yes, I mean, look, what we've demonstrated, I know I'm repeating myself here, we know how to function in this environment. We know how to keep people safe. But however, if the government decides that we have to go into, and I think one possibility is maximum 10, we'll have no choice. We'll have to do it. We think we could probably operate with more than 10 because we have, after the N95, the one mask we have is the second best you can use in the world, and the social distancing, infection control. But look, it could happen. It could happen in the new year that they shut us down again. We will have to obey whatever public health says, and we'd have to go back to remote learning. We hope that doesn't happen, but we're not in control. I mean, we're more in this world, in this situation. We're more like, a cork bobbing in the ocean. The ocean is public health. We're the cork. They tell us to shut down. We're shutting down.
But as
Okay.
you said, it's a little bit different now than it was back in
Oh,
March,
yeah.
where we have a track record.
We can do it. The problem is, I mean, the big problem will be, we've been able to reduce the amount of time in labs through simulation. I mean, there's a lot of good work being done by a lot of faculty and administrators, et cetera, about simulation. When I talked about the PSW training, a lot of that now is done through simulation. You can do it from home. But there'll be some, I mean, unfortunately, if you get into a lockdown, there'll be some students stranded and they'll have to do some of but it'll be fewer that will have to do their work at the college. We'd like to get to a situation where we could go back and forth, that if some people want to do almost everything, even labs online, it'd be nice if we could do that. But I don't think we're quite ready for that. So, yeah, we have to watch the news, and not the news. I mean, we are in touch with public health on a day-to-day basis. So, yeah, that could happen. We're hoping it doesn't. And sorry, could I? Yep. And I mean, when I'm looking out here at people, our biggest threat, honestly, is not in this college. It's the people who are going out and doing things they shouldn't do out in public, going to events, etc. If everybody would follow the rules, there's less chance we'd have a lockdown.
For sure. So the pandemic has created a lot of challenges for students as they look. Some can be financial stress. They've lost a part-time job. They're suffering from isolation and mental health issues that can bring, emotional stress too. How can we as a college community provide the support students need to be successful as the pandemic continues?
Okay, in fact, I didn't mention it because I knew there were some questions. I could have talked for an hour and then just gone home. I wouldn't have had to answer any questions. But I want to say that one of the first things we did do, I mean, let's talk about our community. One of the first things we did is we provided $2 million worth of equipment, masks, ventilators, beds, etc., to our community. So we did that, but we also recognized that our students paid a tremendous price in the beginning because the private sector job market, especially the service industry, dried up, and a lot of them lost their jobs. And there was also a food insecurity for some of our students. So I give the CSI, and in particular Sana Banu and her team, a huge credit. We worked together. Also Trish Weigel-Green and her team in student services. There were food banks. There were vouchers, etc. We put in, the college alone put in millions of dollars in. I mean, we didn't talk about that earlier. Even though we were heading over a cliff financially, I mean, it looked like it. We felt we got to protect our students. A lot of the international students, they're here. They didn't have family, and so we provided equipment also because let's face it, all of a sudden to adjust to remote, a lot of international students are used to working on their phones. They don't necessarily have all the gear that they need. So, and we did this, so we provided food support, we provided vouchers, we provided financial needs scholarships, and I would say for us here, and we got some money from the government, we went out and got some, I'd say millions of dollars of support. So I feel proud of that, and I can also say that our students, student services area, adapted and provided a lot of help online, you know, as far as the psychological help, because it's tough for everybody. I mean, you know, especially for younger people from other countries, all of a sudden you're alone. So I'm not saying that no one had any difficulty, but I want you to know that we reached out in a major way and provided not only millions of dollars worth of help, but we also provided support services. In fact, we learned from this. I think we are doing more and more of the psychological support online now. Mm-hmm. But it's not easy, as you know. It's a tough time for everybody.
And it was surprising to me when I was on campus one day and the health wing was almost cleared out.
Yeah.
We had donated all the beds, all the ventilators, everything. So it was
and that was appreciated. And sorry, one thing I did miss. I mean, even the number of faculty, technicians, Veronique Boscar herself and her management team were working. Not only were they working in the college, but they were out in long-term care facilities, and let's face it, I mean, there's a certain risk because, as I said, 80% of the deaths were in long-term care facilities, so I'm very proud of our faculty and staff and students. There are many students that were not quite finished the program, went out and helped out, so we have a lot to be proud of. So it's not that we didn't, you know, we just hunkered, you know, maybe the first part I talked about, we looked after ourselves, the ship didn't sink, etc. But we were also sending out landing parties, okay, to the islands around us and helping people. We helped, and I think people appreciated it.
So you touched on what Conestoga might look like once the pandemic is gone, and you talked about a lot of program delivery and what it might look like. But a lot of employees are wondering, what does work look like for them when they come back?
That's a good question, and I don't have a quick answer, but we are working on that now. We have a team that's been established, and it's looking at it for different groups. There's no easy answer, but I think the world's changed dramatically. I mean, it may sound ironic, but although I don't physically see a lot of people, I interact with more people now than I ever did, because if I'm going to meet with, well, you and I are in more meetings than we ever were. I'm looking over at Norma there, and I'm in more meetings because you can add people. And, you know, you don't worry about a room of 20. If I want to talk to Barb Kelly about something, and it also has to do with Norma and someone else and Catherine, they're all on and we can talk. So there's no question there's going to be a substantial change. I can't define it exactly, but I think there'll be more online. There'll be we'll be reviewing the whole issue of office space for faculty, for support staff, and for management. And we're going to obviously do some consulting, because look at where we're going. We're going to have 7 major campuses pretty soon. We're going to be in Milton. That's a given. I mean, the board approved 12 acres. We're getting 45. We're going down in a big way. We're going to be big in Brantford. So we need to find a way. How do we manage that? Not everyone needs to be moved, you know, on and off campus. So the answer is yes. We know it's a serious issue. We know there's going to be change, and we are going to be consulting and adapting and coming up with some answers on that one.
And then kind of on a similar vein, there's lots of employees joining us today. Lots of questions specifically about employment conditions and stability. Will working from home become a long-term possibility for some roles? Do you anticipate further staff cuts in the foreseeable future?
Well, I think the stability is there. I mean, if you had asked me, look, there was a period in April, May, I'll be very frank, where I thought we potentially could have had $50 million losses. I mean, it was just overwhelming. So I feel now that the very fact we're going to go ahead with Reuter, and it'll be open in it'll be over at some point, this virus. I don't mean the virus will be over, but you know what I mean, we'll be able to get back to some semi-normal state. So now that we know how to manage through it, hopefully the vaccines will prove to be effective. But the fact is, we wouldn't be getting approval from our board to spend $50 million and expand that project in Reuter. Also, I forgot to mention the downtown Kitchener. We're going to likely open that partly in May, and we're going to expand the downtown Kitchener campus, and we will be opening in Brantford in May to a small. We have to be careful, you know, depending where we are. But we're not. Let's say we had X in classes, maybe we'll have half the people in classes, but we'll be expanding in Brantford. So look, we're in a situation now that we can grow because, as I said, if your ship is going under, and it was, let me tell you, we were in serious trouble. Not only us, every major institution in Canada was in that has international students was in trouble, even ones that didn't. So no, I'm confident that we are on now a growth agenda again.
Okay.
So we're going to move ahead.
So we have a question in the chat that's arisen, and it's about, to do with Reuter. With the trades campus opening at Reuter, what will happen to the trades programming at other campuses?
Well, the Reuter, it's a big project. I mean, it's a 41-acre property. Eventually, it will hold all the trades. So this is phase one that'll open in 2022, but there's a team working on that, and there's 4 phases. So eventually, most of the trades would be here. Now, there's probably 1 or 2 that, you know, there's a question. For instance, I'm sure, I don't know, is that René L'Etoile from is it?
Yeah.
See, I
don't know who asked the question. Right?
Okay, but if that's René from the masonry program, I don't know. But that masonry program is a gem, that building, and it was built by the Ontario Masonry Contractors. So there'll be some, it's like anything, you know, I studied French, and then you study French, and but there's an exception. You don't pronounce the C in front of that one. You have a C cédule, you know, whatever it's called. And that's going to be the case. In other words, most of the trades will move into Reuters, but there'll be some exceptions that make sense. So, but we're not just going to go about it, well, we'll take him, no, not them, etc. But I think overall, the trades faculty would like to be, I mean, it'll be, seriously, the premier trades campus in North America. No one will have that. So we got to find a way to do it. At the same time, we have, you know, we have the woodworking center. Where are we here? Over here. We have the woodworking center. I mean, that's the woodworking center. It's one of the 4 top in the world. I don't know. Maybe that won't go right away. Maybe that waits. So the answer is yes, no. Yes, okay, no. We're going to get most of the trades out because I think that's where they should be, but there'll be some exceptions. And if it's the masonry guys, you're okay for a while.
Okay.
You're not moving. Okay.
So we know that the Ontario economy and our local economy has taken a real hit during the pandemic. What role do you see for Conestoga in a post-pandemic world?
Well, a huge one because, and that's something, look, I know, and I have to be careful how I say this, because there has been some pain here. But you have to, people in here have to understand, because I hear about this and that, it's going on. But you have to understand that 96% of the layoffs have taken place in the private sector, and some of those people are not coming back. Let's be honest here. There's some companies that they're not going to come back, especially some of the smaller ones. I think there's a lot of people unemployed, but it's not just the unemployed. When you talk about people in the automotive or other areas, what's starting to happen is the technology. I mean, I see how we've adapted with the technology, but I'll give you an example, and I keep going to the PSW. We had donated to us, Kevin King is a graduate of the college, and he's developed these mannequins. Well, I went in the room, augmented reality room, and I thought it was a person. I mean, I'm not criticizing the mannequins we've had in the past. I mean, they've been phenomenal, but they look like G.I. Joe and people, you know, but they still worked. But this, I thought this was a person. So we're going to be, I think more of the low-skilled jobs, I'm not talking about in the college, but out there in the general public will change because there's so many things now with artificial intelligence and augmented reality. So who is best at that? It'll be Conestoga and the college system, not the universities. The number of, what's some 32-year-old going to do? And I got to be careful here. Yeah, maybe some might go to Laurier for 4 years, But you can't go to a university for 4 years, even Conestoga for 4 years, if you're not underemployed, but if you don't have the skills to adapt to the changing technology in your company. So I look at PSW. My understanding in PSW, and I keep hammering away on that because everyone, it's a big crisis, but my understanding in Ontario is a shortage of about 100,000, and it's not just long-term care, it's home care. There's a huge market for us to be the trainer. The same in the automotive and the same in IT. It's hard to imagine the IT industry is not going to grow dramatically, right? Even I consider myself, I joke with, and is Andrea still here? Pretty soon I'll be able to take over the IT department, because I can operate Zoom calls. But seriously, all of us now, more and more things are being done. I think he's just about to resign now. So what I'm trying to say is IT is going to become embedded in everything. And there'll be more and more jobs in IT. There's going to be more, more needs in that. I mean, we're going to have to obviously make some improvements in our healthcare system. I mean, we've got to invest, obviously. I mean, there's some serious problems there. So I think there's a great role. I think we have a great future. And what we tried to do is we took some pain and we made some difficult decisions, but I can tell you we're ready. We're ready to be, because we need to be. We are the institution that'll make a difference in most people's lives going forward.
Yeah, people often think of us as the post-secondary institution as training those right from high school, but we know we're much more than that at all levels in the community.
Well, look, we know, for instance, in our first year programs that, about 65% of the students are not coming right from high school. But I think there's going to be more and more, training in micro-credentials. There's going to be more need to get people who are in the workforce up to scratch. And then there will be, and we're doing it now, we're training people in the hospitality area, because let's face it, that's taken a lot of punishment, and it's hard to know how far that'll come back. But we're training those people to work in long-term care facilities, and not as PSWs, but in residents and doing some other work in the long-term care facilities. So I think the future is great for us. I really do, and thank God that we're positioned to move ahead.
You touched on international students a little bit. We had fairly aggressive growth before the pandemic hit. We're kind of holding our own now. What does the future of international plan look?
Well, okay, if you look to the musings, and I don't say that in a nasty way, but the musings of the people in the federal government, all I hear is, and I know some people might not like to hear it, but we're not replacing our population, but we're also not able to produce enough people that are skilled to a level to work in the economy. We have, what do they call it, the skills gap, people without jobs, people without jobs, jobs without people. And that was from a college study done years ago. And that will continue. And I think the feeling is that we need to bring more people in to the country. A better way to do it, like I remember the old days, you'd be in a taxi in Toronto and you'd be talking to someone and it was an engineer. Some guy from Romania or something who had an engineering degree and couldn't get accredited. Isn't it better to bring people into the college, give them a Canadian education and maybe a co-op placement and get them out? So we're not going to, unless everyone wants to have 4 or 5 kids, and I don't see that happening in the next little while. In fact, the economy is such that it's going to be difficult. So we need to bring in people. I think what we need to do, and I know there is some concern, we need to make sure that we're bringing people from all over. Right now we have a lot of people from one part of the world, and but the truth of the matter is every college is like that. And every university seems to be like that. There's 2 main countries, China and India. We need to diversify, and we need to ensure that we are marketing property. Now, we have an advantage in the world, and without being nasty, but I'm talking about the States. I have a daughter that lives in Florida and a son that lives in Texas. It's not easy down there because they have some ideas about immigration right now, and they have some ideas about how that herd immunity and stuff like that. So we are more welcoming as a country, I think, right now, and we are, as I said, number 3 in the world, And I think what's going on in the States is not going to hurt us. It's going to help us. And even Britain has its issues with Brexit, et cetera. So our Canadian dollar, I know it's going up a little bit, but I think our education system, it's well respected, and it's also has a whole component, namely ours, which is very practical and leads to jobs. So I think it'll come back. We know that the students would come in now. We're now a designated learning institution for international. In fact, we're required to ensure when they do come in, and they're coming in slowly now, that they go through proper quarantine. So I'm very confident because of the leadership in this country. We need immigrants, we want immigrants, and I think most Canadians are welcoming. I mean, they understand that, that having people from different countries is a strength. It's not a weakness, unlike, you know, what's going on south of the border at times. So I think that that it'll grow dramatically. In fact, we know that both the federal and provincial governments are pushing this. In fact, when we go into Milton, they're expecting that campus to be at least 50% international because they need international students for the economic growth.
There's been a lot of negatives, obviously, with COVID. You know, we've listed those, and we've all suffered through them.
Yes.
What are some of the positives that have happened, and what has Conestoga learned from this that will help us be a better institution moving forward?
That's a good question. I mean, it is tough. It's easier in some ways for some of us that are a little older, you know, because I don't rush out Friday nights, you know, going to listen to some rap music somewhere. I'm quite happy to be watching Netflix or reading these books. But I think, well, it's interesting because certainly it's going to change the way we do business. I think technologically we're becoming much more sophisticated in the classroom because even face-to-face, and this is one thing we don't really talk about, I don't worry, and this is not a criticism of Fanshawe or Mohawk, I'm not so worried about Mohawk and Fanshawe. I worry about Amazon, Google, Microsoft. These are the threats. I mean, first of all, they have war chests. I mean, they have a lot of money, and they're getting LinkedIn, etc. So people have to understand that the only way for us to be successful is keep moving forward. And I'm very proud of the work I see going on in a lot of schools, where they're, even in the face-to-face, they're bringing in more simulation or they're technology-infused lectures. Because let's face it, this is a different world. I mean, you know, when I went to McGill, they had chalk, you know. I mean, I was in engineering, we had a slide rule. Now, I know some people think, well, that's amazing, but it was this, well, it wasn't this century. Anyway, it was a few years ago. But the point is, we need to adapt dramatically. I'll give you an example. I can remember we had a big issue here. We had the best graphic design program in Ontario, and there was a little push and shove because some people thought we should stay with just the hand tools. And it became very clear if we did that, we would be like the dodo bird. We had to adapt, and we did. And we need more technology infusing into curriculum, but it's not a zero-sum game because I think the better we get, the more we'll grow. The more, if we can be a world brand and be perceived as a very high-level institution, then we'll be successful. But we're not going to be successful by, you know, thinking we're going to start a fire by rubbing sticks together. And the world is changing dramatically. We have to adapt with it. We have to be open to it. So what's changed? More technology in the classroom. There may be more blended. There may be students that want to, maybe these high-flex classroom. Maybe they, instead of coming in 3 hours a week, they come in 1 hour. Maybe that suits them better. I'm not sure, but I want to make it clear. This is where we get into difficulties sometimes. People think it's a zero-sum game. The need for training. I mean, look at the way the world's going. I mean, if you don't keep up to date nowadays, I mean, you're going backwards, right? You're going backwards. So we need to, people out there, if they want to move ahead in their careers, they need to keep up to date. We are an institution that has a lot more flexibility than universities have. I mean, we don't see ourselves as elite. We think of ourselves as excellent, but we think of ourselves as also accessible. This is not about, who's training the top 3% of the pop. This is about who's making a fundamental difference in this community. Now look at our community nowadays. I mean, if Brian's on, the CEO from Brantford, we have a real partnership there, and that partnership is ideological. They know that we can help them be successful, and we know by working with them we'll be a stronger institution. The idea of, I know when I first came here, there was so many people that sort of felt, oh, well, we're less than university. We're not less than any university. We're different than they are. We have a different mandate. We don't make Bentleys here, but we make some pretty good cars, you know what I mean? And so how many people drive a Bentley? A handful of people drive a Bentley, but we touch everybody. And I think people should take pride in what they do, but they have to be open to change. This is not the time for standing still, and I think the COVID is going to force us to move faster and faster in areas which I think will make us better.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen that with the vaccine. I don't think ever before has a vaccine been
That's
developed
amazing.
this quickly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm just, any anti-vaxxer out there, you should take it. You should take it.
If we look back to March, even when you think about the advice, at one point it was we shouldn't wear masks. That may not be good, and then it was wearing masks. But as you look back now, and we're living through a once in a multi-lifetime, once in a 100-year pandemic, is there anything you do different?
Well, that's an interesting one. That's a hard question to answer. I think we did pretty well in that. Let's face it. In the beginning, you were afraid to touch anything, right? I mean, we were told that if you touched anything, etc. So we did an awful lot there as far as infection control, etc. But then it became clear that this is probably more likely to be aerosol spread in the air, and in droplets, etc. So we adapted. I think the big thing that we did is we didn't pretend we knew. I mean, I have to say in the beginning, I think it's always good. I think, as I've had some people even now report to me, and they say to me, gee, I'm not sure about that, I'm worried about that. I said, that's good. I said, good, because if I play tennis, so the very fact that Rafael Nadal is nervous, I don't mean when he would play me, but let's say he played someone else in the top 100 in the world, he'd actually be nervous, that's a good sign. So we were nervous, we weren't sure, and we assessed, and we brought people in, like Kurt and Veronique, and Brenda's on that committee, and we did some research, and we adapted along the way, and we were tough at some time. I mean, there's some people that aren't very happy. I mean, there's probably a few people now not very happy because we make them wear their masks, and notice they're not wearing their own, they're wearing these masks. And it came up the other day, like, why do we have to wear yours? Well, because we don't know how many days you've had yours on. We know when they get wet, they're not effective. We know we'd have people coming in looking like Clint Eastwood, as such a cowboy movie. We know that this is the way to go. So it's hard. I think we did the right thing in that we were cautious, the abundance of caution. We were nervous, we weren't sure, and we kept trying to do what's right. That's all you can do in a crisis. I often use this example, and I took a lot of philosophy courses about 20 years ago, and Socrates was asked, okay, who was the smartest man? And this is to the win around because that's the way the world was. Who's this man? Let's say the smartest person in the world. He said, it's me. And so they all thought he was ignorant. How can you say that? Because I know what I don't know. We knew that was a lot of things we didn't know, and we did our best to look after people. We came up with the right objectives, I think, protecting people, protecting the institution. Look, I had people in management going crazy about, we're losing money, this is happening, what are you going to do? We did what we thought was right. And if you do what you think is right and it's been thought out, you have a better chance. And here's the irony. Here's the irony. We have the most rigorous protocols of any college in the system, but because of that, we also made some tough decisions. We shut down Brantford. I mean, and I know if Brian's there, as you know, we're going to open it up again in May, although we're open at the airport, just so he knows. We're open. I know we're open at the airport because we have face-to-face. But we put in tough protocols. So the irony is, we're in much better shape than the other colleges around us financially because we made the right decisions, and we didn't listen to the naysayers who were operating on, well, we're going to lose this amount of money. No, it wasn't. It was never about money. It was, one, let's protect the people, let's protect the brand, and let's not make fools of ourselves by, like, you don't read about us in the paper. Maybe I'll go home tonight and there'll be something on Channel 12, but you have not read about Conestoga on a day-to-day basis. We haven't had a residence problem, we haven't had this problem, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not saying, I think what we did is, maybe some people could say we could do a better job. Okay, the one thing I wish that maybe I had done, and we had done better, is maybe convince more people to wear the mask, because we have a few people out there, I don't get it, who sometimes think that somehow their God-given right is being violated, which is totally ridiculous, because it makes no sense. And perhaps if I had to do it again, maybe we need to get that message out a bit stronger. But all we can do, look, when you work in an institution, you got to hope that the leadership is trying to do their best. I said that from the day I got here. I remember people saying, so what are you going to do? Are you going to do this? I said, look, we can do is try to do better every day. And that's what we tried to do in the pandemic. We adjusted, we adapted. We just tried to do our best. And I think compared to many organizations, I think we've come out of this quite well. I realize for individuals in the community, this is some pain. I mean, there are people that lost jobs here. There's people, students that didn't finish their year. I'm not trying to paint this in any, Pollyanna way, but everyone has to understand, we've been through the biggest crisis that anyone's been through. I don't mean as an individual, I'm talking a societal crisis, economic crisis, a social crisis, and a health crisis that no one has ever been through. So it's certainly easy for people out there watching say, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Mm-hmm. Let's put it this way. At the end of the day right now, I think we've done okay.
Mm-hmm. What are you most proud of?
I'm really proud of how, overall, how people have come together. I mean, I rail on a bit about a handful of anti-masks, a handful, but basically people have done their best. That's how I feel. I mean, I don't, when I walk around the campus, and I do come on campus, the people like the Brunos and others here, and I'm proud. I mean, people, I think, understand that this is a crisis. They're trying to do their best. The faculty that adapted, the students. I get a lot of student complaints, but let's face it. If you're from Chandigarh in the Punjab and you're studying over in India, or you're in some apartment here and your social life is like next to nothing, it's not easy. So overall, I'm proud of how people have responded, because in what I learned as a young person, I don't want to be sounding like, this and that happened, but we've shown resilience, and I want for younger people to understand that life is not always this way, that you take some, you have setbacks in life. I can tell you a personal story. I was, 11, and my mother had, my sister, but it turned out after a few years she's uneducable. I mean, it was a huge impact, but I saw how they dealt with it. My father lost his business. It was some arsonist burned it down, and he couldn't get insurance, etc. So what I learned from that is, like, you should always do your best, expect the best, but also realize that it's all not going to be a piece of cake, and you got to deal with it. And what is it? Maybe a corny expression. It's not how many times you fall down, how many times you get up. And I think this institution got up and is showing pride. And I think if you look around the province, I think when people look at our protocols, etc., we should be proud of those protocols. And I don't want to jinx anyone, but the fact that we've had 3,300 students here in the summer, 4,000 now, and no transmission is a major accomplishment. I think it is, and that can only happen not because the president and a few people issued orders, is that people embrace it and bought into it, and were prepared to work towards a solution. Okay?
So once the pandemic's over, we're going to be a driving engine to get the economy going again?
Absolutely.
We're going to be
We're doing it now. I mean, I'll tell you right now, we are putting in proposals, and I don't know if Veronique's on the line here, or that's not on the line anyway, on the call here, but her team and the team with Sandra Schelling and Gail Jordan and Jeanette and company and Sarah and all, and we are, as we speak, really putting a lot of time and effort in putting in proposals to grow the workforce, PSW, supportive care, developing our own nursing program, by the way, degree program, and gerontology. So we're already doing that. We're putting in proposals in a number, and this is a key one right now. So, yes.
So how big are we going to be in 5 to 10 years? How big will the college be?
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Let's say 10, okay, because there's going to be a few ups and downs. In 10 years, we will have 7,000 students in Milton. That's a given. That's going to happen. We will have another probably at least 5,000 in Brantford. Reuter will be open, etc. We could, now the interesting thing, and what I like about this model, and I joke about it, I hope I can joke with people on this, but you know, I do read more than watch Game of Thrones, but you look at the 7 kingdoms, etc. If we could have 7 or 8 campuses, all of 5,000 to 7,000 students, that's a much better value proposition for students. I mean, remember, 4 years ago, Waterloo campus had, a couple hundred students? Look at now, they're up about 4,000. I don't mean now today because the campus is basically shut down. But you can add a lot of different services, both online but in person. And it's a nice size because you're part of a college that maybe has 40,000 students, but you're more, like Canada, you're made up of a federation, right? I mean, Canada's unusual. I mean, provinces have rights, etc. So we would have this college, maybe with 7 or 8 campuses, all maybe eventually at least 7,000 or 8,000. So yeah, that's 50,000 full-time students. But they're not all here at noon in a 25-story building. You're going to have a small college experience, small to mid-sized college experience, but you will have a large college environment, multiplicity of programs and services. I think it could be we are the only college that's going to have, people don't realize, like we have about 500 acres of land here. I mean, this is, you can't have a footprint without land, right? So right now, we have 57 in Milton, we're buying up more, we got the 300, 100 and something across the way in Cambridge. So we're well positioned. I think, honestly, if you ask me what my, well, I got to be careful because who was it, Faust or whatever? I don't want to make any deal with the devil, but if I had if I could say one little wish, I wish I was 20 years younger, because in 20 years from now, this is going to be the dominant college in Canada. It will be so integrated in all these communities. We will have a full-blown undergraduate engineering school. We'll be the largest apprenticeship college. We're one of the big degree colleges. Who knows? I think we should be, honestly, we should be a technical university. We are more like a technical university than we are like a college. And if there are any politicians on here, I think that where we've come from, and I don't want to be a university in the sense of a traditional, I'm talking about a technical university more like the European model, which is in touch with, with business. But I think the future is going to be great. Look where we are. And, we're not in Baffin Island, we're not in Timmins. And I say that to the president of Timmins, Audrey. It's hard without the context around. We are lucky here. We're in one of the economic engines in Canada, and certainly in Ontario. Dynamic economy, comprehensive economy. So look, for people that are younger, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. So we went through a bit of pain, but you know, when people get sick, sometimes bad things. Sometimes you're sick for a while, but I think we're in a recovery period and we're going to get back into in growth again.
Okay.
Okay?
I think that's a great place to end it.
Okay.
Thanks so much for your
Okay.
candor today. You know, this has been a difficult year for many reasons, and we've all felt it in one way or another. We still have some tough sledding ahead,
Yeah.
but with a vaccine, at least now on the horizon, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I would really like to thank our broadcasting program today, our IT department, and the committee that put this event together. And judging by the response we received, it might be something that we do again sometime in the future.
I have to say, and can I
Yep.
say, I'm not on script here, but I enjoyed this because I don't get a chance. Look, I was thinking of, you know, prepared remarks and make sure I wasn't, because my problem is I can go here and go there and go all over the place. But look, we've lived and breathed this thing. This has been, I mean, if I was a president of the U.S., these would be memoirs. I'm only the president of college, so there's not going to be any memoirs about this. But we've lived and breathed this for 8 or 9 months. It's been a serious business. This is not minor. This is potentially people getting sick, potentially people dying, and not necessarily our students, but families. So we've lived and breathed this, and I thought it'd be more appropriate for me just to speak about it. And so I liked it. You know, I don't hear any applause, though. That's bothering me.
That's the problem.
Okay, now, that's good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so
Okay.
much, John. It's been very enlightening.
Yeah, no,
and
I've
we
enjoyed
appreciate
this.
it.
It's been fun.
Okay. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.